Hello, everyone, and welcome back to well, that was not a good start. Welcome back to the Unhealthy Podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Marv, the show where we talk honestly about the habits, the stress, and the choices that are beating us up behind the scenes and what it takes to turn that around. And I don't know if I'll edit that out. Normally, I just say I don't edit, so we'll see how it goes. But on this particular show, we're going to talk about, if you're a busy professional business owner like me, a busy IT guy who thinks that they're crushing it for their clients, but quietly losing ground with, your own body and energy, well, hopefully this show will be for you. Today, I'm joined by Coach Brian Pirana. Brian has spent more than 2 decades helping high-performing husbands and dads who are tired of feeling worn out, overweight, and half present at home. And I'll get into what he does and his programs and stuff. But Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Uncle Mar, for having me. And guys, bust out some paper pencil, be ready to pause the show. Going to drop some value bombs to get you to think differently, but also some simple actionable tips for you to take with you from the show too.
Yeah. So let's start framing this with probably how you ended up here as opposed to how you got here, because your target is specifically men over 40, high achieving professionals. What was it that made you hone in specifically on that? Was that what you started out doing, or did you just end up there?
Well, I self-identify
Okay.
as being that person. Brian is a go-getter. He's an action taker. He's very motivated, takes massive action and makes things happen. And it's in a lot of areas of life. I definitely feel the provider inside of me that I have to provide for my family. That is a huge undertone and driver for me that I will run through brick walls, right? And I think a lot of guys will identify with that. Certainly success is defined a lot of different ways. Financially is where a lot of people have pull out their measuring sticks, but we have a lot of other ways to monitor that as well. Health being one of them, relationships, your family, your legacy. And these are things that I unfortunately feel are a little bit off in society with guys in their 40s or 50s. I'm 43 years young now, and when I was like 20, sure, like I wanted to work with the business owners, but I didn't get it. I get it now. I have 4 kids in their teenage years,
Well,
2 different school districts. Like,
okay.
holy moly.
Because I was going to ask, there had to be a pivot somewhere. And usually guys, even at age 40, they're still trying to hang with the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds. So how much... So how much of these types of programmings, were you running gyms? Were you doing workouts? Were you coaching people? How much of that were you doing before you hit 40?
Totally. This is all I've done. Going back to coming out of high school, I was running in high school and I got one of the first coaching jobs was coaching my high school cross country team that I just graduated from. And I got it for 2 years from my previous coach, Coach Spring. She was kind enough to say, hey, come out and run with us and coach and be part of the team and all that. And she gave me like $500 for the season. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is so much money, right? Yes, I'll come out and run and hang out with the guys, because I knew them, right? They were my teammates even the year before. So that started this love of coaching. And then I also had a job at the YMCA when I first got one of my first jobs. It was for the reason of a free gym membership. That was the underlying reason why I went to the YMCA. So I was, in quotations, a maintenance person. But basically I just folded towels and swept and cleaned locker rooms and stuff. But I had a free membership. And then the guy who hired me, Carson, and then a later exercise director that came on board, his name was Toad. They said, Brian, you need to start teaching classes. You're a young, able-bodied young man, and you need to be in front of people exercising them. And that started the phenomenal abdominal ab class, Mondays, 5 to 5:30. That started back in 2002, 2003, and that ran for a number of years, probably through until I got to my CrossFit days, which was I opened a CrossFit in 2010. So phenomenal abdominal almost every Monday for years was what I did on Mondays at the YMCA. Then I moved into another gym, which was a lifestyles is Akron General Wellness Center Lifestyles, which was this integrated space of the hospital owning the gym, but in being in a cardiac rehab and a shared PT environment inside an office building with doctors' offices. So it was this, say, self-serving center of
Mm.
fitness. And now the cool thing was Scott Crabiel, he was my personal trainer manager, and he taught me some of the basics that I still carry to this day around nutrition, around exercise. And he helped me really establish this, like, say, personal trainer thing going on in 2005. And from there, that's when I started getting surrounded by business owners, because at that gym, it was the average age was 40 plus. They were business owners. They could afford personal training. So from my youth of my career, 2005, 2006, 2007, that's where I started surrounding myself with, I was 20-ish at the time working with 40 and 50-year-olds. So that ended up, I guess, formulating where I'm at now
Okay.
and
So
leading into it.
So let me kind of understand. So you weren't dealing with, the gym bro aspect where,
Mm-mm.
because when you say CrossFit back in the early 2000s, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about
Yeah,
P90X. I'm thinking about all those
right.
types of programs, and it is all about, the gym bros and the protein powders and that sort of thing.
Right, right.
So you were already dealing with professionals at the time in their 40s who were basically just looking to kind of regain what they had?
Lose some weight, get back into be functional in their 50s and 60s, get rid of the belly, have energy. A lot of times in 40s and 50s, you really start to struggle with the energy, and it's this accumulation over a long time of not the usually the best food habits and behaviors, and then not moving enough because you're in your career at that point in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're pretty established, so you have a lot of responsibilities that keep you at the work desk in a sense, and keep you from
Right.
moving. So that would be the, say, the person that I worked with for
Okay.
years in my early time as a trainer.
So let me ask this then. In that early time, you you talk about now identifying with the scenario that you talk about as your ideal customer profile, I guess men over 40s.
Mhm.
Back then, I don't think you were identifying with them, were you?
No, I was just
So
a young, personable, that word there. I said, "Shoot, Brian, I finally figured out how to make money being personable. I've had a lot of energy. People enjoy being around me. I think I tell good stories. I feel I listen. My clients always say I listen really well. My wife, she doesn't really agree with that statement, but so I could show up and get people engaged and get them excited about working out and taking care of themselves. And that was some of the root of, I guess, why I had been successful enough to be a personal trainer for multiple years before the shift to CrossFit was just a growing pain in my season of my profession of I'm tired of being in this gym setting, this personal training setting, and I'm looking for more. I was like 25, 26, and just that, testosterone and everything was just like, okay, let's go do something bigger. And that ended up being the next phase. But in the personal training phase for 5 to 6 years, that's what it was. I was an energy that people were drawn to and found inspiration. They were encouraged. They'd show up and do the work and have a good time doing it, most importantly.
so did you just get to a point where you accepted that this is my lane, or did you fight it? Did you, because I'm trying to understand, were you trying to make the 40-year-olds work out like they were in their 20s? Or at that point, had you already started to understand 40-year-olds can't do what they used to do? I mean,
Yeah. Well, this is a lesson that I learned a long, long time ago. The simplicity of being a personal trainer is don't hurt your client. Why? Because if they're too sore from the workout that you gave them that they weren't ready for, then they're gonna cancel their next session, or they might get hurt and they're not coming back for 3 weeks, if at all. And so you had to have this, say, kindness in a sense of how you approach their training and nurtured them through the process of going from sitting at a desk for 10 to 20 years and not really moving a lot, and facilitating a way that they can get back into good shape and get back to doing some of the things that are on their agenda. And that's super important, Uncle Marv, is that success lies in the eye of the beholder. And my job is to align with that person on what is important to them. And that's what that also taught me, that in that time frame of, I can't come in and say, like, "We need beach body abs," or something like that. That might not be relevant for someone. They might just wanna, like, feel better and have more energy in their day so that they can go home and not just wanna take a nap on the couch the rest of the night and actually live their actual real life, right? They have their work life and then their personal life, and they actually wanna live their personal life, not just, like, fall asleep when they get home or exhausted on the couch and not do anything and then wake up and spend all their energy in work again. Like, that's just not a fun life in a sense.
All right. So let's tell the listeners why we kind of were focusing on this. First of all, I should probably say Coach Brian has a program called The Call to Rise, and program is built specifically for men over 40 who want to reclaim their health, their strength, and identity as leaders in their families and careers. You also have a podcast. Now, I will say this, Brian. So when you go look up the podcast, the name actually comes out as Weight Loss and Nutrition for Men Over 40, Driven for Health. But when you see the podcast cover, Driven for Health is
For health.
what everybody
Yep,
sees.
yep. That is marketing. We'll explain that one a little bit. So, when I started first podcasting, the idea was, okay, what's a naming connotation? I even have a little mug here that whenever I'm on podcast, my wife and family got me a birthday mug that has my original logo on it. I sat down one day, and it was September 23rd, 2025. I had one client on that day, and I said, this isn't good math. I need to be busy and I need to create a podcast. This has been a calling on my heart for a long time. I started to guest on podcasts quite a bit, maybe 50 or 60 at that point. And then through that process of getting onto podcasts as a guest, I became a lot more comfortable with expressing myself and talking and explaining and all that, even more so than I already am, just working with so many people and like individual phone calls and stuff for a long, long time. So I just go through this process literally is like step by step how to start a podcast. And from that moment, one of the first things I had to do in that morning was a naming connotation. Like, what is this thing going to be called? Well, I'm a driven person, and that's the type of energy that I want to have the people that I work with and surround myself with to have. And then it's around health and fitness. And I didn't want it to just be Brian's workout podcast thing, or Brian talks only about nutrition and food. But Driven for Health was this combination of these two that I said, okay, I like that. I can live by that. And I don't, not once have I regretted that naming choice, because sometimes people get too far deep in, they're like, well, I'm stuck with this. And so even now at episode 138 published since then, which is almost one every 2 to 3 days, which is a lot of content produced in a podcast. I blend this ideal client avatar in there of driven guys that want to take care of themselves, that have success in their family, success in their business and career and all. And I even bring on subject matter experts in different fields from to talk and speak to the fact of why it's important to take care of your health. And then what is the thing that then you can leverage through whatever their subject matter expert is. So it's been a good combo. But going back to the very beginning and in the first month or two, is how do I get my show found? And some of the just basic keyword searches is most people are going to search for a podcast on weight loss or on nutrition or on fitness or something like that. And so that's where the preface of Driven for Health is weight loss. I had it fat loss just literally 2-3 weeks ago, and I changed it back to weight loss to test and see what ends up getting more attention and traction, so that when people see that, they're like, oh, this is about weight loss, about nutrition for men. So it signals to them that this is the show. And 96% of my audience is 40 and over men. So it's working in a
Nice.
sense,
Very
which
nice.
is good.
So unlike my podcast, which was named the Unhealthy Podcast, and more people are like, well, what does that mean? And
Yeah, it's right. You have to
but
explain it a bunch and you're like,
but you know what? I actually get more people because of that, because they're like,
"Mhm,
okay, I get it. Once you explain it, once they get in, it's like, look, a lot of what we can do in health is just getting rid of the unhealthy crap. You know,
agree,
if just fix a couple of things here and there, whether it's
agree."
because of your weight, whether it's because of your mindset, let's just focus on that. And a lot of my people identify with that as opposed to
Yes.
a program, which, listen, I'm not saying programs are bad, just not for me, not right now. I mean,
Right.
I was a gym person all my life. I played ball up until age 48 when I decided I don't need to be chasing this 24-year-old around the gym anymore. I just
Right.
don't. I'm good. Until I wasn't, when I that little
Right.
weight, that belly showed up. I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we are. Okay, I wanted to ask about that, but I now should ask about what does it mean, or what does it actually look like when you say call to rise in terms of, a tired, successful guy over 40? What does call to rise mean?
That naming convention as well, a lot of thought went into. Because again, I didn't wanna get in, like, Brian's fitness program for dads or something, right? The call to rise, in general, I have seen my best clients, they have again, they have success in these other areas, various forms. Usually, they're more monetarily successful, and they identify with that because of their careers and all, and they put a lot of time, energy, effort, but at the sacrifice of their health. Now, when someone does come to finally realize, hey, I probably need to take care of myself, health is wealth. That's a real saying. And when you're 20 and you're 30, you don't get it. But when you're 40s and 50s, you're just like, hey, I'm starting to run out of the runway here on this thing called life, and I do want to take care of myself. And no amount of money is going to be able to buy more years to your life if it's, say, in quotations, predetermined at a select time to be done. And the average expectancy of a man is 70 globally and 76 in the US. So at 43, man, I'm already running out, and like I don't like that. So no amount of wealth is going to get me necessarily to 80, right? I can spend a lot of money on health and wealth and supplements and whatever else, but even I think Brian Johnson, the guy that's supposed to be the longevity guy that's going to live to 200 or something, I think he's running into health problems and he's spending millions of dollars on himself. So like it's unfortunate, but something's going to get us. So we go to back to the call to the rise. The when someone finally runs into an issue of, I don't like what I see in the mirror. I don't my clothes don't fit. I keep falling asleep at 3 o'clock. I can't think in the meetings like I once did. I am 2 steps behind where I should be at, and I can't keep up with the natural pace of this faster lifestyle that's coming. I don't know if you feel it, Uncle Mar, but I feel it. Like, holy cow, we've got inflation, we've got this. I've got 4 kids that are in their teenage years that are like, oh, it's like life is on fast forward times 4
Oh, yeah.
and trying to keep up. So when they come up with it's like, okay, I need to take care of my health. Then once they get that in control, it's like they not for men as a necessarily a good analogy, but it's like they blossom into this flower in a sense of opportunity. So their relationships improve. They actually make more money. I've had multiple people make a lot more money because they're healthier and they take care of themselves. So like the call to rise signifies that we take care of ourselves and then we can take care of others. And isn't that the best way to serve people and get what you want anyways? If I can serve you and get you the results that you want, then I'm going to get what I want in return back. So, and that's the only way that this works is deliver value for the value received, like say monetarily. So that's what I do there is let's level up. And the initial hook of the whole problem is, look, let's lose 20 plus pounds in the next 100 days. Let's get your blood panels improved. Let's work on basic nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, behavior change that then allows you to be able to then be successful years to come. Because most guys, even the guy that signed up today, he's been on the hamster wheel of losing weight, gaining it back from 175 pounds to as heavy as 260 for he said about 40 years. He's been up and down. And we calculated it was over 1,000 pounds that this guy has lost and regained, but he's still 225 pounds and he wants to be under 200. Like, that's not good on his body and his long term life. So we need to get it down and be able to just like live and then have worry about other things in life, not what you're going to put in your mouth or
Right.
how you're going to be able to move and take care of yourself.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit because I think, you know, a lot of people, not just men over 40, but a lot of people are on the hamster wheel. We're told, hey, do this program. And a lot of these programs are not, let me check myself before I say this. This is not professional medical advice. I'm not a doctor or anything, but from what I have seen out there, a lot of the advice that we're getting, whether it's from influencers or people that decide to go into something and that they've got no training behind them, no health credentials behind them. And, people just go, hey, eat this, drink this powder and you'll be great. And it is this hamster wheel. And so what I wanted to ask you is for the people that come to you and they've been going through that up and down all those years,
Yeah.
what are the resistance points in your mind that, guys push back on when you start trying to, talk about identity instead of diets?
Well, in the beginning, I do focus specifically on diet. I need to get quick wins,
Right.
right? And build trust in someone in our working relationship. So if you come in and we lose 2, 3, 4 pounds and we start creating this momentum in the direction that you want to go, and you start feeling better and you are drinking more water and you're doing these things that you should do, but you just hadn't figured out how to do it. But now you're doing it with accountability, with support from a professional who has the experience, the background, and the knowledge, then there becomes this connection of that coach client relationship, which then allows us to get multiple layers down in the onion. I'm not just going to come in and start swinging of like, so Uncle Marv, how's your relationship with the people closest to you? Right. That's not the type of coaching that I market myself as, but those type of conversations can open up. I have a guy that I was just texting with within an hour ago. His name is John. John is out in Tucson and John is 62-ish. And when we first met about 2 to 3 years ago, I need to lose weight. And as a result, it has facilitated him losing over 40 pounds. And it has a result of allowing him to bring his wife back into his life because there was friction and there's separation there. And they have 2 kids together that are in their 20s. So this again is a fruit of the labor of building trust around, okay, let's take care of yourself first. And then that facilitates into better quality relationship, more, in a sense, life coaching in a sense. So like if Brian could just do what he does best, life coaching would probably be
Right.
the
Right.
term that I would put under myself of like the main hat that I wear. But I'm a Swiss Army knife. I just have too much experience working with people in all sorts of different ways that I'm able to connect, be personable, build trust quickly, build their authority, get results, and then the relationship opens up
Right.
and goes where it goes.
Okay. So let me just dig a little deeper there because
Yeah, please.
the quick wins in the beginning, losing those few pounds early on, that I get. What I was trying to dig into you with is what happens when they hit that first plateau. Now you started to mention accountability, but it's got to be a
Yeah,
little
lean in.
different. It's got to be a little different than, the weekly check-ins or the, hey, you can do this or whatever, the affirmations and stuff. So what is different when they hit that plateau and it's like, here we go again?
Excellent. Great question, right? Because then they start to the belief shifts,
Yeah.
right? It goes from this momentum to like the wind's in the sail to I am not moving on the ocean at all. And the waves are starting to get big and ugly out there, right? And the storm clouds coming in. This it goes back into building that trust and that relationship and taking the leadership position. So I then have to make sure that I am more connected to the client and more I say it's a game of tennis. So like say we were working together, you and I, and in general, the Uncle Marv's excited to get on the court again and start playing tennis again, right? And move and do the things. And then you do get tired at some point. And so we're sending this ball back and forth. The ball is our communication in a sense of what you're sharing with me, what you're telling me. Your people send pictures of food, their workouts, their step counts, menus, all the things that are related toward health, nutrition, fitness. And again, that builds relationship and connection to me. But as I start to feel less balls coming my way, then I start serving more balls back to you, waiting for you to return them. So we're at the point where I've even called guys impromptu, like, yo, what's going on, man? Hadn't heard from you in a minute. Like, let's check in. When can we get going? Or what's going on? And just having this real authenticity of caring. That I think that's a strong undertone that you can see on the web. Like I have this one website that I have found people through to help with their nutrition all, but there's 700 plus 5-star reviews that basically say all one thing. Brian is supportive, he helps keep you accountable, and he cares. And I think that at the end of the day is allowing us to then put that rally cap back on to start to build quick wins. And we always just go back to the basics of the things that we talk about on the very first call to then regain some momentum around their nutrition, around their energy, the basic things that they need to do to feel better, because weight loss and weight maintenance is simple, but it's not easy. And so we can get the simple part out of like eating the right foods and the right portions and the right calories and the movement and water and sleep, and those are the basics that have to happen. But then it's the not easy part of life that comes in, and the more that I can understand what this person is dealing with an everyday basis, then I have, so going back to the tennis, I have a lot of different moves and tricks and serves and whatever volleys that I can send to that person to then reel them back in a sense, and get them to play the game with me.
Right. I'm going to try to ask this in a way that we can get a good answer
I'll be
here.
concise.
Because, well,
Yeah.
well, it's really two separate questions, but I think
Okay.
they could start from the same place, because talking about health in men over 40 as it uh, pertains to their work, but you brought up a point about, the gentleman that is focusing on his health that is changing his marriage.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, how does a man's energy and discipline show up in both of these areas?
The thing that John and I had talked about, whether that's his real name or not, right? But the thing that John and I talked about was that through him taking control of his health, losing weight showed as a signal to his wife that he cared about himself and that he was doing the things that showed her that he was more responsible than say the time that they had pulled apart from each other. And seeing these physical changes meant that he had done some work on himself, which then meant that he was more attractable or more attractive to what she had, say originally signed up for. There's a line that I say a lot, but your partner, your spouse isn't signing up for you to be a diabetic in 20 years. That's not what they want. They don't want to, barring injury and illness and like a car accident aside. But if it was like you just got so overweight that you couldn't walk and had to get pushed in a wheelchair, like that's not what your spouse wants, to have to take care of you, right? They want to live a fun, exciting, enjoyable life. And so this gentleman's wife saw this and was, say, pulled back in by the original reasons why she married him in the first place: his charm, his humor, his kindness, and all this stuff. And because he was overweight, he wasn't doing those, and he wasn't doing that so because he was not feeling himself. Because every time he woke up in the morning, you'd just see an overweight individual that he didn't recognize.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah, please.
because this is based on the assumption that, you know, the husband and wife are in communication, and that's the
Mhm.
starting point.
Right.
I know a lot of guys who start working out and they're getting healthy and stuff, and the wife all of a sudden is, "Who are you working out for?"
Right.
And it kinda gets it's a whole different conversation. So, do you kind of ask these questions to get a
Oh, yeah.
feel for that?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
Let's say just even in an actual relationship, not even just like a partner or spouse or something like that, but even a friend in a sense. I remember this lady. This was one of the first ladies that I had that gave me this like, holy cow, I actually created a transformation, not just help someone lose weight. And she had a friend that besties for a long, long time. They were both overweight. And this person, her name was Dana, whether that's her name or not, it doesn't matter. But Dana chose to move in the different direction. She wanted to get healthier. She had 2 young kids, a daughter and a son, and that were around 8 and 10 years old. So very impressionable on her mother's behaviors and their mother's behaviors. So this relationship started to create friction between her and her friend. And I had to call her out on it. I said, "Hey, you every single time anyone sees you, they are only relating to your past version of yourself that you have consistently shown to them. So, like, I would hope that anyone that is in relation to me, say I had a buddy and I hadn't seen Leo. Leo's a good friend of mine from high school, and I haven't seen him in a year or so, but we text occasionally and stuff. So we still have connection. There's a still a relationship, but I would hope that when we saw each other, he would be, think that, oh, Brian is a healthy individual, takes care of himself, he moves his body, he's a health coach and all this stuff. And I would act in that way. Whereas if I started to gain weight, to just do behaviors that were opposite of what I had been showing him, then there'd be friction in that relationship. And that's what happened. So what I told her was, we can't change the other person. We can influence them, but we can't change them. And they choose their life for them, but we don't have to necessarily be around them in a sense either. The 5 closest people, as Tony Robbins would say, influences your behaviors, how you act, how you think, and all this stuff. So changing your environment can change that type of behaviors. And your relationships might change over time if you are taking better care of yourself than any of your social circle group. There might be friction there because someone might be jealous or like envious, but they feel self-defeated or like ignorant in any reason or excuse or whatever you want to call it. Now, in a actual like marriage, in a sense, there has to be an open line of communication, and that would probably default back to the relationship itself and how much communication was actually there in a sense, and along the way, because you see that person every single day, and if you're constantly moving in the direction and sharing with this person that you want to be healthier and you're taking those actions, I would hope that that relationship was strong enough that that wouldn't even be a question
Hmm.
in a sense of like, oh, well, who are you getting fit for? Like that shouldn't be something that should be brought up in a healthy relationship
Right.
in a sense. So like that would be that'd be a relationship conversation for a relationship specialist in a sense, or counselor, for them to start to smooth out whatever that friction is, or understanding why maybe that person has a childhood trauma or something, because it seems like whatever problems that we have as humans always result back to our childhood, right? But maybe they had some friction when they were younger, and they saw something or had an experience where this person changed their behavior and it resulted in a negative experience for them. So if wife is gaining weight and husband's gaining weight, now husband's losing weight, and wife's still gaining, like, like there's so many different things in there. But I would have a conversation with that, and I would always be advocate for a positive relationship with communication and all that, so that the the husband wife combo always should be on the same page
Right.
in a sense with this. And I'll even invite partners and spouses onto our calls that we have to make sure that everyone is in alignment with what we're doing, because it's that important that there's not friction at all, and behavior change.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and do a break here. Brian and I had already decided we would make sure that this is a two-parter. We obviously dug into a lot of the reasons why men get stuck and all of those things. I want to make sure next time we dig into the nuts and bolts of the program, the Call to Rise. I actually want to talk about your programs that you got. So,
Wonderful.
Brian, thank you very much for doing this. And we'll be back here in just a little bit with part two. All right, folks, today you heard Brian break down why so many successful men over 40 struggle. And it's not just about losing a few pounds, it's how it ties to how we feel and show up as husbands, dads, and leaders. In part two, we're going to be shifting away from the why to the how and hope that you'll come back. So thanks for listening, folks. Stick around because the good stuff is coming next. And until next time, live healthy, be happy.